There are so many demands on you. Demands at home, in the boardroom, and in the bedroom. You have to be jack of all trades, wearing a different hat when the moment arises. You're on all the time, always on the clock, always catching up. Take care of you. Introducing Your Media, your podcast network that meets you where you are, when you need it, at your time, in your space, when you feel like it. You come first. Your Media, where you are. Getting up close and intimate. Totally Not Taboo with Tracy. Celebrating sexual positivity both in and outside the bedroom.
Hi, learner lovers. Welcome to Totally Not Taboo with Tracy on Your Media, where you are. This is where we get to talk about everything taboo around sex and sexuality. Today in the studio, we have Or Aisenstadt. He is a really, really great friend of mine, and I'm just so happy to have him on the show with us. I'm going to introduce Or right now, and then we're going to get on to our chat. Or is 34 years old. He's a gay man who grew up in Tel Aviv. He served in the IDF Army for 5 years, where he became an officer in the IDF spokesperson's unit. He then decided to fly the coop and adventure abroad, where he spent 7 years in South Africa and then moved to Amsterdam. He's currently living in Luxembourg. Throughout this time, he has been an independent business owner, specializing in sales and sales training. A year and a half ago, during a personal crisis, Or was introduced to a life coaching method called Satya, developed by Natalie Ben David at the Emotion Institute for Being, Listening, and Transformation in Israel. He agreed to get to know himself on a deeper level, improve relationships, and literally changed his life experiences. Nowadays, he's being trained at Emotion to become a life coach with the mission to help others do the same for themselves. So let's hear from Or about thriving as a gay man in a straight man's world. Hello, my friend. Welcome to Totally Not Taboo.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm very, very excited to be here and to take part in your wonderful show and to share what I have to share.
Excellent. So, Or without any delay, why don't you tell our audience about your journey? I've been privy to many a chat with you over the years to get to know you as a gay man struggling to find your place in society. And we've been through a journey together, and I've been privileged to know your story. So why don't you tell our audience where it began?
Where it all began. Um, so I actually remember when I was younger, even before I came out, but even a little bit after, that I used to hate or don't like the fact that I'm being targeted or identified. The first thing that anyone would say about me is that I am gay, because I used to say to myself that I'm so many other things as well, and I don't understand why this aspect of who I am comes always first. Um, I've learned to realize and to actually love the fact that the first thing that I am is gay. In my opinion of me of myself. Um, I remember as a young boy living in a very normative family. Um, I do not have any kind of story that I was, for example, kicked out of the house because of being gay. It was very um, normative. I came from a pretty sustainable social economic status. I practically had everything that I need from a material point of view as a child. Um, and From the age even of 7 or 8, when I was experienced first to my cousin that she is a lesbian. Now that she's married with 2 children. Now, just last week, the second one was born.
Amazing.
So thank you. I experienced her coming out process in front of my family as an observer, even from the age of 7 or 8, which I still did not have any kind of idea uh, about that part or aspect in me. And I remember it was extremely hard because I saw the struggle and I saw how my family react to it. And my experience of that was brutal. I basically understood that this is one of the worst thing that I can be or a person can be. There was a lot of shame involved back then. I'm talking about 25 years ago. It's not like it is these days. It was not something to talk about. It was not, for sure, it was not something to be proud of, but it was not something to talk about. And I remember that I've seen behind the scenes as well how she was treated, for example, in front of her, and also experiencing the very deep emotions and the difficult emotions of behind the scenes. Um, And as the years went by, and I basically reached to an age that you're already starting to having kind of sexual thoughts, or um, this aspect in your life comes to life. I remember that it was extremely difficult for me to acknowledge the fact that I am like that as well. Um, I remember that my teenage years um, were very difficult, also socially. I also suffered from obesity from that age. At the end, in my 20s, I reached to a weight of 150 kilograms. Um, and we're also going to talk about what happened after. But at that age, being a young boy that is dealing with his sexuality, that he believes, that I believe, that it's one of the worst things that I can be, um, led me to the very strong false self-thought that I am damaged, that there is something wrong with me, that is that it's not something that I can repair, it's not something that I can change, and it's just who I am. Um, in the late teenage years in my high school, I remember walking in high school and really wanted to be transparent. I wanted somehow to walk in the halls of my school and not to be seen, because I was afraid that if someone would really look at me, they can see the very harsh experience and what I really think about myself. That led me to really, I remember when I was in high school, I think that I reached a weight of 110 or 120 at such a young age, um, which is funny because I wanted to be transparent and like
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
which
and
is
I just wanted to know, if I may interrupt you for a second, you wanting to be so transparent, and yet you were really, really overweight, and walking down those school corridors, um, with this shame. Can I assume that there was so much shame and guilt? Did other kids know that you were homosexual at that point? Did they know you had come out?
um, no one knew for sure. I I think that in that stage of my life, um, you could see in some way my behavior, but I also try to hide it, obviously. But at the end of the day, what really matters is the experience that I had. It doesn't really matter what people actually thought. It matters what I thought that people think, and that was extremely difficult for me. I remember the change also from junior high to high school, in particularly that year, was also the year that I gained, I think in 1 year, maybe 20 or 25 kg, which is,
Uh,
yeah, really showed on my emotional state. Um, another thing that I actually carried from childhood is that I have stammer, I stutter, um, which I think eventually also delayed my will or my willingness to actually express my own voice, which made it even more difficult to actually speak up, even if it's for self-defense. Um, so it was these were difficult years, and kids can be very cruel as well.
yeah.
Hmm.
And yet it's interesting how when you got into the army at the IDF, in the IDF, you actually became a spokesperson for the IDF.
I became an officer in the spokesperson unit. It's not the job was not really dealing with actually speaking and expressing myself in that way, but I think that the whole army experience and also being an officer, the army, it's kind of a melting pot. So people come from different kind of backgrounds, and all of a sudden, from being a child that you feel that you are the center of the world, you are taken apart in a whole system that you are that small, basically. So I think that it's actually something that helped me with coping, because you see the diversity, you feel the diversity. Um, yeah.
So now you come out,
Hmm.
you come out to your family, and now what?
I remember that at the time that I came out, it was when I actually, for the first time, had feelings for a guy, for a boy. He was my best friend in the army. Um, it sounds like a beginning of a fairy tale. It's not. And he was straight. And I remember that when I had these feelings, which I'm not talking about sexual attraction, I'm talking about like something that is beyond. I remember that I told to myself that I'm a good actor. I can fake. I have faked for a certain amount of time, period of time. These kind of feelings I cannot fake. These kind of feelings I cannot feel for a woman, and that led me to the final understanding that I have no way of getting out. This is it. This is who I am, and it made it even more difficult. And I suffered a lot in this time because I wasn't ready with myself to actually accept it, but it kind of hit on me. I remember that it was like a couple of months that I was really really depressed, and at the end I sat with my mother um, in tears and told her out of like I really felt like I'm throwing it up, like I have no ability
Mm.
of holding it within me anymore, and to have this big burden and to carry it by myself. Um, the reaction was was harsh was harsh um, for me, mainly because I saw how much it 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 also hurt her, which this was the one thing that I was so afraid of. Um, she actually forced to go to my father the same day and tell him, which I was dreading from. She told me, I remember she told me that don't worry, he's going to react better than I just did. So I even retrospectively, I even seen this kind of act even a way to make it also easier for her, but also to make it easier for me. Um, and from that point, um, I was 19. It took us 9 years, and in these 9 years, we maybe had like 3 or 4 conversations about it. It took us 9 years to actually start a process of acceptance and to actually
Wow.
bring the topic uh, um, um, actually actually having some evolution with the topic because there was avoidance basically for 9 years. It's something that we could not hold. The relationship was fine. I've, I've always had a good relationship with my parents. It's just that this thing that was so difficult for both sides, um, we just decided to keep silent. And that silence and these 9 years of avoidance had and still have an enormous effect on me, on who I am, on how I am dealing with the fact that I am gay, even years after coming out of the closet. Um, which that is something that only recently I discovered actually.
Wow. And is
Mm.
that from having honest and open conversations with your parents?
Um, so in the 9 years, we basically had like I said, maybe 3 or 4 chats that ended up in tears, and basically we could not hold the conversation, we could not hold the topic. And nowadays, yes, I mean the big change was from getting closer to the topic, as hurts as it may hurt,
Mm.
as much as it may hurt, um, only from coming closer to it, only from experiencing that discomfort and this pain, you can actually learn to hold it, and then it just transforms to something else.
Yeah, I suppose it's something that you'll tell us more about later as well.
Hmm.
But your journey in terms of working through the healing that you've been on. Um, Now, I want to hear about your weight loss journey. And I wish you actually had a picture of yourself ready. Um, Maybe
Uh,
you can scratch around and get that for us later. But the transformation is absolutely unbelievable.
I can actually do it. I can actually do it very very quick. Um, yes, I agree that the physical transformation that I've been through in the last years was one second,
Because the gay world is very, very focused on what you look like.
very.
So it must have been difficult for you as a overweight guy
It, it,
in a
it,
gay
it
man's world. I mean,
yes, yes. I can explain that my experience as an overweight guy is a is an overweight gay versus
Mm.
not overweight gay. It's a completely different thing. I actually even I was so far away from myself when I was when I was obese, because there was something that even if I engaged in for example sexual activity, it was so indifferent. It was lacking of emotion. It's not something that I was able to even hold. I want to show quickly the picture. So let's.
Wow.
I don't know how well you can see it, but yeah,
Yeah, I definitely get the size proportion for sure.
you cannot miss it. You cannot miss it.
You cannot miss
Difficult to
it.
miss it.
You couldn't
And
miss you.
yes, exactly. So yeah, I did the. At the end of the day, I reached to a point, um, which, by the way, those 9 years of avoidance that I was talking about, that
Mm.
me and my family, me and my parents didn't really speak about the fact that I'm gay. These were the years that eventually, at the end of these years, I did a gastric bypass, because I basically raised a red flag. I could not control it anymore. I even remember that the last 20 kilograms that I gained, I didn't even notice. From 130 to 150, I remember just going, like, being on the scale at one point, and after a few months, just seeing 20 kilograms more. Um, so I did that 6 years ago, and then I lost quite quickly the weight. Within a year and a half, I lost 60 or 65 kg, and then I did a second surgery for a tummy tuck for the extra skin and fat, which the second surgery actually erased um, any kind of sign to the fact that I was even overweight before. So whoever knew me after the second surgery could not even know um, that I ever suffered from being overweight. However, this is the external change. This is the help that I was fortunate enough to get and to have. But I can honestly say that the real and the true change is what happens inside. Because I remember when I was younger, I used to say that the fat kid inside of me he is always there. He's always there. He never left. Um, and then came the question: what do I do with this fat kid inside of me, and how do I treat it? How do I view it? Even how do I look at him?
So
Um,
I need to stop you there for a minute. We have to take an ad break.
mhm.
So hold on to that question because I want to know the answer. So
Okay.
give us a moment.
There are so many demands on you. Demands at home, in the boardroom, and in the bedroom. You have to be jack of all trades, wearing a different hat when the moment arises. You're on all the time, always on the clock, always catching up. Take care of you.
We all know summer bodies are built in winter, but that can be easier said than done. So why not join fitness expert Mo on the Health Fix with Mo for an inspirational weekly fitness podcast show for fitness novices. Mo chats to the best in local health and fitness experts in an effort to help you achieve your aesthetic fitness and health goals. Subscribe on YouTube listen on any good podcast platform or find it on www.yourmedia.co.za, your media, hashtag where you are. So, or you were going to give us the answers about where is that little fat boy?
Yes, yes, exactly. Um, that little fat boy, and by the way, I can say the same about that little gay boy that is
Mm,
inside of me, um, is still there, and only when I came, when I was able to come to terms, and to actually love that boy, instead of resenting him or hating him even, only then the true inner change about the perception that I have about who I am, um, actually really change, and in that way also the weight loss uh, can be sustainable. It's something that I can hold, because at the end of the day, if we are looking at the term eating disorders, if we go deep into it, we can call it actually feelings disorders, because in order to lose weight, or if someone is having this kind of issue with himself, I don't think that most of us need to know how much calories there is in this kind of food, and if we should eat carbs or whatever. It's about what makes us eat and compensate. What kind of feeling are we covering up for? What kind of feeling we cannot hold within ourselves that makes us want to eat and forget and numb. So yeah,
absolutely. And I can imagine that that's true for all addictions, actually.
of course,
Talking about food, sex, substances, alcohol, drugs, gambling, all types of addictions that just keep us numb and not able to deal with what is really going on beneath the surface.
exactly.
So, so now you are thin and gorgeous, and I'm sure you were fat and gorgeous too. I only know the thin and gorgeous or. And I'm sure that there is still a lot that you deal with on a daily basis because, pain and shame, and we carry around with us all the time. Um, I want to know, what was that aha moment for you where you decided, well, you explain in your bio that you had a year and a half ago, you had a personal crisis
Hmm.
that sent you looking for deeper meaning, try and wanting to maybe heal yourself more. Can you tell us what that is about? Because really, I know that you're thriving, and I'd love you to tell the audience what that aha moment was for you.
Um, so even in my adult years, before that aha moment, I've reached to success in some ways um, quite at an early age. If it's um, business wise, I traveled the world, I lived overseas, I could basically afford the lifestyle that I wanted. I was surrounded with people that loves me, and there was still something within me that was not calm, and even years after I lost the weight, which I think that I related in my mind a lot of my personal and like issues to the fact that I was overweight, and said to myself that because of that, for example, I don't have a relationship. because of that, there are certain things in my life that I want that are just not happening. And after the weight loss, I still found myself, retrospectively, when I look at it now, having the same disturbing thoughts inside my head about how I look, how people are looking at me. Uh, do I get validation from the people around me? Should I be more like this or should I be more like that? Something that is not really connected to myself, and that can even if I can put it in this way, can rely on myself. I felt like I don't have myself to rely on. Um, so I moved away from South Africa, 2018, to Amsterdam, and I reached to a new environment. And also in the first year, I experienced success at work, and I had a wonderful apartment, and really, if you look from the outside, you could see someone that is living the life. Um, Still inside, there was something that is restless. I was simply not happy, and in these years, especially, and after losing the weight, I and you also talked about other addictions. I started using drugs quite heavily at some point. Um, it started also to be associated uh, for me with sex. It came to a point that it was extremely difficult for me to have sexual relations without the usage of drugs that basically allowed me to be who I really want to be without being afraid to show a certain side of me, inhibited, um, and in that kind of vicious circle that I am on one hand living the life and I have everything that I could ever want, and on the other hand I felt like I have nothing. I felt like literally like I have nothing, like it doesn't mean anything. It was difficult for me to even be still with myself, to spend time with myself. Um, so that aha moment, I remember that I was dating briefly this guy that I was. It was kind of a nice start, and it didn't go to the direction that I wanted to, and I took it extremely rough, extremely rough. I blamed myself, and it was kind of a moment that it was completely disproportional
Mm.
of what actually happened to how I reacted. And then um, an ex-colleague of mine actually introduced me to my current life coach, and she told me this is the best gift that you can give to yourself. And I met Karen. I'm training with her for a year and a half now on a weekly basis, and she's a certified trainer by Satya, which is the method that I'm also studying now how to become a life coach. Satya means truth, essence, and in Sanskrit, and also deep listening. It basically it's a method that was developed by Natalie Ben David in Israel. It's being taught in the Emotion School, like you mentioned earlier, and it's basically all about the relationship of a person with himself. The deepest, most meaningful relationship that all of us as humans have is the relationship that we're having with ourselves.
So,
Everything, yes.
sorry, I just want to make something clear. So, Satya is Sanskrit.
The meaning in Sanskrit is
Uh huh.
truth, essence, And yes, it's the origin of the method is also in the Buddhism and
Mm.
a few other sources, and it's mainly the practice itself is about the relationship that we as humans have with ourselves, with certain terms in our world. For example, what is money for us, what is love for us, what is relationship for us, how do we perceive ourselves. So
I love
I
that.
think, yes, and I really think that the main thing that I felt that was so different um, from the beginning is that when we come, especially from a place of crisis, and we describe to someone what we're going through, we used to talk about the other person or the world as something that is not, it's not working, or he did this to me, or she is behaving like that to me. And the whole principle of the method is actually to talk about yourself. The one of the basic things about it is that humans, we are as humans, we are great, we are capable, um, we can do practically whatever we want, and the only thing that holds us back is us holding ourselves with emotional grasps and locks that we basically have, and we are putting our own limitations upon ourselves.
Mm. Absolutely. It's I love that. And I've seen the personal growth in you since you've started this. And what I love as well is the fact that you yourself are doing this course, this life coaching course. And we talk all the time about the similarities in what we actually do. Myself as a intimacy and relationship coach, and you as you're learning how to listen, how to reflect, how to just be a more conscious human being in this world. And so tell me about, you were also telling me the other day that you've made a big change in your life. You've made some big decisions in your life that are really now starting to um, serve you instead of serving other people. And this is due to your investigation into yourself.
Exactly, exactly. The first few months of the coaching sessions were excruciating for me because in the beginning, the awareness of how I actually look at myself and how I actually live my life is rising, which means, to put it in simple words, I remember that I felt like I'm like nothing major has actually changed in my life, but just my awareness about it or for it or what it actually means or something that I felt like I'm doing for so long or wanting for so long. All of a sudden, I look at it and I don't understand how could I even think like that. That kind of thinking is really not serving me. It's actually damaging me, and that realization is extremely difficult. So the first few months were kind of shocking. I remember that literally I used to look right and left and felt like the ground is shaking. But what I also love about it is that we all have our own self mechanism, um, and we do not take a self mechanism from someone until we provide that person something else that he can deal with the world through it. Because our own self mechanism, even if it's instead of going in a straight line, we do like this, and we are just used to do it. Until we do not know to go in a straight line, in a direct line, um, we won't make any kind of change. The change actually comes from within, and there is a very big difference between change and transformation. Change is something that we can change and go back to the same way that we used to behave. Transformation comes from a place that you do not look at the world in the same way anymore. You cannot. It's like putting glasses all of a sudden. It's like you see something that is clear,
Mm.
and this is how the world is. So if we're talking about change that I experienced in relations to that, um, first of all, after 11 years of specializing and doing mainly sales and sales training, which, if you think of it, it's basically explaining to someone else what they should say or how they should say in order to reach a certain goal or a mission. And on that way, I found myself many times lose myself, lose who I am and who is important for me to be in order to achieve a goal. That at the end of the day, as much as my awareness rised, I realized that this is not even a goal that I even want to achieve anymore. So I actually reached to, and what was so difficult, I reached to a point of lose-lose situation. It's like I'm working so hard to get something only to realize that I don't really want it actually, or don't want it anymore. And I think that a lot of people that I actually know, especially in the last year with everything that we've been through with COVID and people are actually bound to look inside because there was no outside for such a long time. A lot of people are feeling that way, that it's difficult to look inside, but you discover new things within yourself that can take you to a whole different direction. So that is about my life's work, that I have this personal mission now of really to help others also to go on this path, because I do believe that our soul is something that we must treat, we must take care of on a regular basis, not only when we are sick or when we
Mm.
are feeling bad. It is our personal growth is something that affects every aspect in life.
And I know that we've been talking about you using this life coaching to help other young gay men to help, to help them, guide them in their lives, to be real, or to just to help them with their struggles. Can you tell us more about that?
Um, one of my main goals and the things that would give me the best motivation to continue in this path is actually to help others that are dealing with similar difficulties and challenges that I had to deal with when I was younger, and didn't really get the help that could bring me to a much better place with with less suffering, because
Mm.
at the end of the day, the goal of everything that the Sati method is about is to reduce human suffer. We suffer as human beings all the time. If it is anxiety, if it is anger, if it is all of these emotions that are making us miserable, that we just don't know how to handle. Um, and what we do is normally to push them aside. And throughout this method, I found that actually to come closer to them, to understand them, to just let it be, let them be, is the way to thrive. Um, so I would love in the very near future to work with the gay community, and I also would love to work also with people that are dealing with overweight issues, because it is also something that I've been through, and I also know how that external change
Mm.
is simply not enough. The
Mm.
statistics say that the surgery that I've been through, the gastric bypass, um, when I did it, which was 6 years ago, um, the statistics said that 5 years after you do the surgery, 50% of the people that are doing it are ga- gaining the weight back and going back to their original weight. Nowadays, it's more than 50%. Most of the people are actually gaining the weight back. And why is that? Because doing the surgery or focusing, for example, if we are focusing on the doing is not something that is sustainable. It's not focusing on the being,
Mm,
on what is actually the cause for it.
absolutely makes perfect sense because you need to treat the behavior underneath the behavior. It's that you got to treat the motives which sit below the behavior.
Exactly.
Got to look at the reason why. You got to look at the why. I always say it's not the what or the how, it's the why that we need
Exactly.
to look at. So you're thriving or in your life.
In
And
a, yes.
um and sure, there's always going to be trauma from the past that all of us have to navigate through our lives.
Hmm.
But and there's always going to be something else, another hurdle that we're going to have to overcome in order to be our best selves. And that's part of life. We're always trying to be better, be more conscious, looking at ourselves in relation to other people. How do we have an effect on other people? What is this person's behavior having an effect on me? Is it me? Is it them? Is it projection? What's going on in this situation? But if we're not conscious in this world and we're not um, having these conversations with ourselves, we're really living an unconscious life. So
Exactly.
I have no doubt, and also knowing you the way I do, you've done a lot of work on yourself to be the conscious human being that you are today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience about your journey, or anything else that you want to share that we haven't touched on at this point?
Um, I think that it's important for me to say that if the topic of this platform is and the name of it is totally not taboo. So we discussed here experience that I had in my life that actually the experiences became so excruciating and difficult. It was because these subjects were taboo. If it is to talk about sexuality and being gay, and even after you are coming out, the enormous journey that you have to go through until you actually learn how to deconstruct what you've constructed when you were a child and to make it to live a benefit in life, or if we're talking about the weight loss, for example, that aspect of the be and not the do, of actually why we are eating, why we are compensating, and for what. So I think that the message, the main message that I would like to convey is that keeping these topics and these issues that are made more difficult and uncomfortable to talk about as taboo is actually making the experience of the people that experience it much harsher, and that the right way and the forward is to treat ourselves and our surroundings with compassion, with understanding, listening. We as humans, it's so difficult for us to listen to other people, unfortunately. But um, it's these kind of behaviors are critical and crucial in us thriving from our own differences forward and accepting the diversity that we are coming from.
Absolutely, you said it so beautifully. Or thank you so much for joining us today. I just love and adore you, and as again, I'm so proud of where you've come. And I wish you so much further luck in your life coaching journey, your studies, and you're thriving, mate. Proud of you.
I thank you so much, and thank you very much for having me. And it was a pleasure taking part of your wonderful show. And I wish us all to thrive.
Amen. All the best.
All the best.
Ciao.
Ciao.